Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ryan Randall, and with me today on the call are Lisa Kidder and Michael Spall, all of us from the ITRC. And today, what we're going to talk about is how to organize your question banks. And this is in reference to both Moodle and Canvas as we prepare for that transition. So, first up, Lisa is going to tell us more about what we will be talking about today. But first, I will give you a overview of what we'll be doing. So we'll be talking about why you should take the time to organize your question bank in your Moodle course, how to access your Moodle course question bank, how to identify the questions that are used or are not used. We'll discuss the question types that are available in Canvas, and finally discuss how you might want to rename categories.
All right, so first we're going to talk about why clean up your question bank. Since we're moving over to Canvas, why do this work in Moodle? ISU has been on Moodle for 14 years. And so through backup and restore, importing, a lot of courses have been kept around, have kept their questions around for a very long time. I still see questions from back in like 2011. So that's quite a bit of time that questions have been around. And we know that you are constantly updating and revising and improving the assessments of your students. If you have too many questions, it's more work for you to deal with them and to sort through them. And even though we're asking you to dig into it, we are trying to set you up for success in Canvas. So we want you in Canvas to have what you need, but get rid of some of the excess that has been hanging around for a while. The organization of the question banks is different in Canvas, and so this is another way we're going to kind of look at your question bank in Moodle to, again, set you up for success in Canvas. So where is your question bank? I know we're starting with basic. Up at the top of your course, you're going to find under More, there is your question bank, and this will list all of your questions. All the questions that are in your course should show up here. I tend to work off of the categories view. So that top drop down moved over into categories, and you can see you get an overview of all of your questions there. So how do you know which questions are used? Starting with that category, we're going to look at a specific category here. And by looking at category, I always click on the numbers. That's the number of questions that's in that category. And when you look at your question bank, you have a question title, you have the actions that you can do with that question, status, version, who originally created it, and then you have this column that says usage. If you click on that number, it tells you exactly which quiz it's used in. And since we're moving to Canvas, you can see that this quiz on Moodle tools is not something that I probably need to keep around. So I can simply delete that whole entire category, because if I'm going to talk about teaching online, I'm going to start talking about Canvas tools. In this category, you can see there's 0 questions, but I can use this little click over here to show questions from all the subcategories. So I'm going to look down that usage column as I go down, and I have a bunch of zeros. Now this doesn't make sense to me because I know there's questions in my syllabus quiz. Wait, here's a 1. I can see 1 right here. Ah, I remember. In my syllabus quiz, I pull randomly. So I'm going to need all of these questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and select all of these questions, and I'm going to move them all into my syllabus category. So with my selected, I'm going to select and move it to the title that I have is the Course Overview Scavenger Hunt. So that's the title that I've used for my syllabus quiz. Remember when we first looked at it, there were 0 questions, and now all 30 questions are located in that category. So if I go back to the category view, you can see that all 30 questions are there, and I have now the categories that are 0. Now remember, before I had these different sections and I pulled randomly But in Canvas, I'm going to want all of these questions. So I'm going to move them all into the one category so that I know where they all are. And that's going to be explained a little bit later. Michael's going to now talk about the question types that import into Canvas.
So there isn't going to be a quiz at the end on these, but this is to give you some time to think about the type of questions that you implement in your course and that you'll want, and whether how hard or easy it's going to be to bring them over. These are the list of question types in Moodle that import in general, without much problem. Occasionally, they don't import for some reason. So be aware to double check that they did come across. But they are the description, true, false, matching, multiple choice with one correct answer. And so what I mean by that is when you've only marked one of them as being right, not like there's five and if two or three of them are the correct one. Short answer becomes fill in the blank. Numerical, calculated becomes a formula question, and calculated simple also becomes a formula question. So you lose the simple setup. It all becomes one way, and essay stays as an essay. There are subtle differences in how these all work and how you set them up, but I think they will be fairly easy for people to figure out. And as you get into the swing of doing things in Canvas. Ryan, can you advance the slide, please? These three types import, but they import incorrectly. They're the multiple choice with multiple answers. They become essentially an all or nothing multiple choice question. So before you could have, if you got two of the three right in a multiple choice that had like five, you could get 2/3 of the question right if you decided to set it up that way. And you could get penalties from guessing the wrong one so that you can only get, and things like that. That's not possible. But what's kind of bad from our perspective that you'll have to pay attention to is that this becomes an all or nothing multiple choice. If that's what you always wanted in the first place, then you'll be happy. But we actually have a different question type in Moodle for that. Calculated multi-choice becomes a formula question, which can be okay, but it's no longer a multiple choice. So it's really getting converted on you. And so you think about if that's an okay conversion. And then embedded answer close becomes fill in multiple blanks, but close has a lot of different question types and they all become fill in multiple blanks. And so this one, in the end, you'll want to do something different. So random short answer matching, embedded answer close, selected missing words, ordering, multiple choice with multiple answers will all need to be recreated in Canvas. One of the tools that may be appropriate is atomic assessments, but we'll provide more training for that and going forward. Then some that will need to be transformed are things like the calculated multi-choice, all three drag and drop. There is a format in Canvas. They won't come over automatically, but you will be able to do a drag and drop of the way Canvas does it. And then the all or nothing multiple choice does not convert over, even though Canvas actually, that's how their multi-choice always is all or nothing. And so that one you'll have to recreate. So we're here to help. Will provide additional trainings in more detail on this. We'll have guides. We'll provide a lot of help, but this is to get you aware of the road ahead and to get you to start thinking about what's involved in transforming your course to Canvas. And then I'll turn it over.
I put the link to the document that was at the bottom of that in the chat so that you can reach out to the Canvas transition website. So let's talk about how to reorganize your question banks to prepare for moving into Canvas. You need to identify the categories that you have in Canvas. There are called banks. Moodle course has one question bank with categories. Canvas has lots of question banks. So a category is a bank. And we're going to talk about how to create a meaningful naming structure. So here are the same question bank. On the left, you can see what it looked like in Moodle, and you can see what it looked like when we imported it into Canvas. In Moodle, there's the opportunity to put like headers and make this outline option with the subcategories and things like that. Canvas has one level, and you'll notice that they are sorted alphabetically. If you pay close attention, you can see that we imported the course into Canvas twice because there's twice as many questions that show up in the Canvas question bank as there are in the Moodle example here. So there's some simplicity here that is very helpful and kind of makes it a little bit cleaner interface. But depending on how your question bank is currently organized, this might help or it might really confuse you when you look at Canvas. So let's look at how to do some renaming. Because the banks are sorted alphabetically in Canvas, you may want to sort things by module or by quiz numbers. Here's a module 1, and I'm also giving it a meaningful title. So all the questions in module 1 related to, you can see this is about plagiarism and academic integrity. I can make smaller banks with each of them so that I can still pull the right number of questions and find my questions, but they're all going to sort together under M1. Another option is if you want to go by topics. In this example, we have biodiversity, and notice the letters B and D are shortened for that biodiversity, and these are all the categories or subcategories that I had in Moodle, but are now going to sort with biodiversity because I'm using the short letter code up at the beginning. You'll notice that up at the top, I don't have a hyphen between the letters B and D and biodiversity because that's telling me this is the category, but biomes is part of the biodiversity category. So here's 2 ideas to kind of look at how to create a 1 level because we don't have indenting and outline levels in Canvas. But this is 2 different possible ways that you can sort these. We do strongly recommend that you have meaningful titles. We strongly recommend that if you want to use modules, notice I shortened it to M1, but I've also put the title in there. There's going to be a lot of change. So any little thing that you can do now to help with the cognitive load that you'll be dealing with in the fall, the easier your life will be. So here are 2 categories. So on the left, you can see that I have a bunch of questions that are all about outcomes. And there's 1 subcategory, before and after. And notice there's 6 questions in there. There's 12 in Canvas because I imported it twice. And now it's not under outcomes. So before and after has no relationship to outcomes. So 2 possible ways for me to rename in Canvas the before and after, which is better, is I can add the word outcome in front of it. So it would say outcome before and after. So I know that these are before and after examples of outcomes. Or knowing that we discuss outcomes in module 3, I can put an M3 and then before and after. To be totally honest, I'd probably do both. This is in module 3 where we talk about outcomes, because before and after, which is better, does not tell me that this is about outcomes. So think about those titles as you look at reorganizing your question bank in preparation for moving your courses to Canvas. You saw earlier in the video where I took all the subcategories in Moodle and I moved them all just into the main category. That's also an option as well. depending on how well you've named your questions. Some frequently asked questions, and we're just going to kind of get ahead of the game. How should you prioritize your work? Focus on your fall 2025 courses first, or the courses that you typically teach in the fall. I'm going to say that we know that schedules are constantly changing. You will continue to have access to Moodle, so even if you take and you trim everything down and you clean up your question bank and you come over and then you realize you forgot a category, you can import just a single category. If you are going to do major work on cleaning up your question bank, we recommend that you request a development course. So you keep a copy of your live course, you clean up your development course, and then you will always have that live course that you taught this semester in fall 2024 that you can go back to and pull any other questions or any other artifacts that you may need. We are going to strive to keep everything available for the 2 years, which is our current archive policy. That will be constantly reviewed as we've all learned about storage. Will the ITRC clean up my question bank? So there's a couple of things. They're your questions. They're tied to your assessments and they tied to a number of different things. We're here to help. So some of the things that you need to decide are if the questions are still needed. You might have questions that are not currently connected to any quizzes, but you still need them in the course, and that's fine. Some of the question types that need to be recreated or transformed, that you have to change the way or use the Canvas way of questioning, that's a decision that you're going to have to make. How you want to rename them? Yep, needs to make sense to you. You are the only one that sees the naming in your question bank, so make it make sense to you. Some things that we can help with. We can remove empty categories. We can also remove specific categories. So if you find that you have a category from a course from 2011, you can reach out to us and say, can you just delete all the questions in that? We can do that for you. So there's some things that you will need to decide, but there are some things that we can help. The organization and decision-making it's your class and it's your assessment pieces.
If you want to learn more beyond what we've discussed today, we do have many Tiger Tracks articles, which you can find. I have just added a link in the chat, which takes you to these slides. If you happen to have a device that can read the QR code in the bottom right-hand corner, that could take you there as well. Tiger Tracks is our knowledge base. It's a library of how-tos at your fingertips. They're searchable. That's one of the fantastic things about that particular platform. We also have a library of videos and recordings, similar to today's, in our Wednesday webinar video library. And if you would like to attend any of the future ones, such as the one that will be happening on atomic assessments, which will be all about the different types of more refined quizzes that can be done in Canvas, you can look at our Wednesday webinar schedule. And from there, you can even register in advance, so you'll have a reminder on your calendar. If you'd like to meet with us, you can, of course, always email us at itrc@isu.edu. You can call us at 208-282-5880. For folks in Pocatello or who are willing to drive from Twin or Idaho Falls, you can go to Bowler Library, room B17 on the Pocatello ISU campus. And we also have on-demand appointments via Zoom, phone, or in person, which you can schedule with us. And for future Wednesday webinars, you can always watch for announcements of those in Idaho State Today. And you can also check out the ISU Canvas Transition website for more updates and further communication about the ongoing transition and how you might want to continue refining your courses. So thank you all for joining today. And like we said, whenever you have questions, please reach out.